biglang sumabog sa Sichuan, China.
Kamustahin po natin ang sitwasyon sa lugar mula sa mga detalye ng balitang ibabahagi maya-maya. Magandang gabi, ako po si Rikki Mathay.
Ako si Rikki Alagao, Flores. Ito ang mata ng Agila International. Para naman sa mga headlines ngayong Miyerkules.
January inflation rate ng Pilipinas nanatili sa 2.9%.
Impeachment complaint laban kay Vice President Sara Duterte umarangkada na.
Ating alamin kung bakit kumalas ang Estados Unidos sa United Nations Human Rights Council.
10 patay sa isang school shooting sa Sweden.
At China, planong magpadala ng flying robot sa far side ng buwan. Iniulat po ng Philippine Statistics Authority o PSA na napanatili ng gobyerno ng Pilipinas sa 2.9% ang inflation rate noong buwan ng Enero.
Ang pinakahuling datos na ito ng PSA ay pasok sa target range ng gobyerno na 2 hanggang 4%. Kahit walang pagbabago sa naitalang inflation rate ng bansa, ay mas mataas ito ng bahagya kung ikukumpara sa naitalang 2.8% noong Enero 2024. Ayon sa PSA, nakaambag ang food inflation sa inflation rate nitong Enero na tumaas sa 4% mula sa 3.5% noong December 2024. Sa kabila nito ay bumagal naman ang core inflation ng Pilipinas sa 2.6% nitong Enero 2025 mula sa 2.8% noong December 2024.
Naitala po ng Bureau of Treasury na lumobo pa sa 16.05 trilyong piso ang kabuuang utang ng gobyerno sa pagtatapos ng taong 2024. Mas mataas ito ng 9.8% o katumbas ng 1.44 trillion pesos sa naitalang utang noong pagkatapos ng taong 2023 naman. Ayon sa ahensya, kasabay ng paglobo ng utang ng gobyerno ay ang paghiram ng karagdagang 1.31 trillion pesos sa pamamagitan ng net issuance ng debt instruments, alinsunod na rin sa deficit program ng gobyerno. Nakaambag din ang paghina ng halaga ng peso control o kontradolyar na nakadagdag ng 208.73 billion pesos sa halaga ng utang ng Pilipinas. Samantala, umabot naman sa 60.7% ang debt to GDP ratio ng Pilipinas na bahagyang mataas kumpara sa 60.6% na target ng gobyerno para sa ekonomiya ng bansa.
Bukas, Pebrero 6, ay ilalabas ng Department of Trade and Industry o DTI ang bagong Suggested Retail Price o SRP Guide. Kasunod ito ng pagtaas ng presyo ng 62 mga produktong ibinebenta. Kasama sa mga ito ay ilang brands ng sardinas, canned meat, evaporated milk, Pinoy Tasty at Pinoy Pandesal. Inaasahan din na tataas ang presyo ng mga kandila at baterya. Ayon kay DTI Assistant Secretary Agaton Uvero, tansyan ng ahensya na nasa 2 hanggang 9% ang inaasahang dagdag sa presyo. Paliwanag ng kalihim, pinayagan ng taas presyo sa naturang mga paninda matapos ang masusing pag-aaral.
Umabot na sa 39 katao ang inaresto ng Police Anti-Cybercrime Group o ACG at nasa 7,900 registered subscriber identity modules o SIM cards ang nasamsam ng mga otoridad noong Enero bilang bahagi pa rin ng mas pinaigting na crackdown kontra iligal na pagbebenta ng SIM cards. Ayon kay ACG Director Brigadier General Bernard Yang, naaresto ang mga suspects sa loob ng 31 entrapment operations ng PNP sa buong bansa mula January 1 hanggang 31. Kasama sa naaresto ng pulisya ay isang menor de edad na nasa kustudiya na ng Department of Social Welfare and Development o DSWD. Samantala, mula sa bilang ng mga nakumpiskang SIM cards, 19 dito ay napag-alamang nakalink sa mga e-wallets at bank accounts. Nakaharap ang mga suspects sa paglabag sa SIM Registration Act at sa Anti-Financial Account Scamming Act na kapwa may kaugnayan sa Cybercrime Prevention Law.
Nasa 76 na mga bansang dumalo sa Parliamentary Intelligence Security Forum na isinagawa sa Pilipinas na layong magbalangkas ng mga patakaran sa global security threats sa larangan ng national security. Ayon kay House Speaker Martin Romualdez, naging daan ang pagtitipon para maisulong ang isang rules-based international order upang mapalawig ang strategic cooperation ng mga kaalyadong bansa. Paliwanag ni Romualdez, ang Indo-Pacific region ay nahaharap sa isang global security concern dahil sa geopolitical rivalry, economic coercion, terorismo at cybersecurity threats. Naniniwala rin si Romualdez na ang Pilipinas ay titindig sa pagpapanatili ng kapayapaan sa rehiyon, lalo na sa pagpapatupad ng international law. Sa
kauna-unahang pagkakataon sa kasaysayan ng Pilipinas ay inimpeach ng House of Representatives ang vice-presidente nito. Dahil ngayon, na huling araw ng sesyon ng Kamara ay inendorso ng 215 miyembro nito ang ika-4 na impeachment complaint laban kay Vice President Sara Duterte. Lagpas ito sa requirement na 102 signatures o 1/3 ng lahat ng miyembro ng Kamara upang hindi na litisi ng bise sa mababang kapulungan at para automatic nang umusad ang impeachment complaint sa Senado. Nanguna sa listahan ng pumirma si Presidential Son and Senior Deputy Majority Leader at Ilocos Representative Sandro Marcos. Samantala, hindi naman dumagda sa impeachment complaint si dating Pangulong Gloria Macapagal Arroyo na ngayon ay kinatawan ng Pampanga.
Considering that the Secretary General has certified that at least 215 members of the House of Representatives have verified and swore before him the said impeachment complaint against Vice President Sara Duterte. And consistent with our rules, I move that the Secretary General be directed immediately to endorse the same to the Senate.
There is a motion to direct the Secretary General to immediately endorse to the Senate the impeachment complaint, having been filed by more than 1/3 of the membership of the House, or a total of 215 members. Is there any objection? The Chair hears none. The motion is approved. The Secretary General is so directed. The session is suspended.
Samantala, ang tatlong impeachment complaints na inihain noong buwan ng Disyembre ay hindi na itatransmit sa Senado. Ito ay i-archive na lamang ng Kamara. Bagamat impeached na ang bise sa Kamara, ay hindi ito nangangahulugan na matatanggal na sa pwesto si VP Sara dahil magkakaroon pa rin ng paglilitis ang Senate Impeachment Court.
Sa kaugnay na balita kaninang hapon ay formal na inihatid ni House Secretary General Reginald Velasco ang Articles of Impeachment o AOI sa Senado kung saan natanggap ito ni Senate Secretary Renato Bantug. Ngunit sa kabila nito, tinapos ng Senado ang sesyon nito nang hindi tinalakay ang impeachment case ni Vice President Sara Duterte. Magkakaroon ng mahigit 3 buwang session break ang Senado dahil sa national at local elections ngayong paparating na Mayo. Samantala, paliwanag ni Senador Joel Villanueva, anumang agenda na tatalakayin ay kailangan ng approval sa plenaryo ng Senado. Posible ring matagalan bago matalakay ang reklamong impeachment dahil kailangan anyang pag-aralan ito at maaari ring amyendahan ng impeachment rules ang mga naunang impeachment rules. Pero ang rules ay dapat ding aprubahan sa plenaryo na hindi na magagawa dahil naka-adjourn na ang sesyon. Para naman kay Senador Ronald de la Rosa, batay sa sentimiento ng mga senador ay posibleng sa June 2 pa matatalakay ang impeachment dahil dito pa lang makakabalik ang Senate session. Kinwestiyon naman ng ilang senador ang tila pagpapasa sa kanila ng Kamara ng reklamo na itinaon pa sa huling araw ng kanilang sesyon.
Paano nga natin yan itatakel na hindi pa na pasa sa plenaryo? O anong magiging move namin ngayon na naka-break na kami? So most likely, mag-reconvene ang 19th Congress after elections. After elections. Anong basis namin para mag-conduct ng impeachment trial?
Bakit ba ngayon? How long did it take in the House ba? Kaya kami dito, ayaw naming sirain yung pag-iisip namin sa aming focus ngayon kung ano yung nasa agenda namin, and we are not going to anticipate anything.
Kaugnay nito, hindi naman nagbigay ng komento si VP Sara sa pagkaka-impeach sa kanya. Anya, babasahin niya muna ang articles of impeachment bago maglabas ng formal na pahayag.
Nagsagawa ng ika-6 na Multilateral Maritime Cooperative Activity o MMCA ang Naval and Air Force units ng Pilipinas, Japan, Estados Unidos at Australia sa Exclusive Economic Zone ng Pilipinas. Sinabi ni Armed Forces of the Philippines or AFP Chief General Romeo Browner Jr., ipinapakita ng MMCA ang sama-samang pangako ng mga kalahok na palakasin ang kooperasyong pangrehiyon at internasyonal bilang suporta sa isang malaya at bukas na Indo-Pacific. Walang ibinigay na detalye hinggil sa eksaktong oras at okasyon ng MMCA at kung ilan ang bilang at komposisyon ng mga kalahok. Subalit, tiniyak ni General Browner na isinagawa ito sa paraang naaayon sa international law at isinasaalang-alang ang kaligtasan ng nabigasyon, ang mga karapatan at interes ng iba pang mga estado. Susunod, mga turistang Pilipino pinapaiwas pumunta ng Japan.
China, pinatawan din ng taripa ang Estados Unidos.
At Donald Trump na isnabang sakupin ang Gaza Strip. Mga detalye po ng mga balita niyan at iba pa sa pagbabalik na Mata ng Agila International.
This portion.
Namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka nang mangamba. Sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. Mailalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa new era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
Inanunsyo ng China ang kanilang pagganti sa US matapos napatawan ng 10% na taripa.
国务院关税税则委员会今天发布公告，自2025年2月10号起，对原产于美国的部分进口商品加征关税，其中对煤炭、液化天然气加征15%关税，对原油、农业机械、大排量汽车、皮卡加征10%关税，对原产于美国的附件锁列进口商品，在现行适用关税税率基础上分别加征相应关税。现行保税减免税政策不变，此次加征的关税不予减免。
Ayon sa China na ang magpapataw sila ng 15% na taripa sa coal at liquefied natural gas products, gayon din ang 10% na taripa sa crude oil, agricultural machinery at malalaking makina ng sasakyan na galing sa US. Magsisimula ang nasabing pagpapataw ng panibagong taripa sa Pebrero 10. Itinuturing pa ng China na magaan pa ang kanilang ganti kumpara sa ginawa ng US na nilahat ang mga produktong pinatawan ng 10% na taripa. Kinumpirma rin ng White House na magsasagawa ng pag-uusap sila US President Donald Trump at Chinese President Xi Jinping.
Any update on when you would speak to President Xi?
No, we'll speak to him at the appropriate time. I'm in no rush. It's fine. It's fine. We're going to do very well against China and against everybody else. Right now, they've taken advantage of the Biden administration like I've never seen. I've never seen. The deficit with China is about $1 trillion. Think of it, $1 trillion. They're using our money to build their military. And Biden let that happen.
Kinumpirma naman ni Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky na nakipag-usap ang grupo nito sa National Security Advisor at top war envoy ni US President Donald Trump, si Bernhard Gonzaga para sa report.
Ayon kay Pangulong Volodymyr Zelensky ng Ukraine, inaayos ng kanyang bansa ang pagbisita ng isang delegasyon mula sa US. Ito ay matapos anyang mag-usap ng kanyang grupo at ng mga kinatawan ng Washington na sina National Security Advisor Michael Waltz at Special Envoy for Ukraine Keith Kellogg.
Да, у нас відбуваються контакти між нашими командами. Я думаю, що зараз, саме зараз цей час, голова офісу, закінчив Андрій. Та у нього була розмова з Вольцем. Так, і з Келлогом моя команда мала контакт. Вчора, мені здається, вчора. Так, різниця є просто часом. І ми узгоджуємо дати.
Matagal nang sinusubukan ng KYIV na bumuo ng malapit na relasyon sa Trump administration na nagsabing nais nitong tapusin ang giyera sa pagitan ng Russia at Ukraine. At ngayon nga nakausap na ng grupo ni Zelensky ang mga kinatawan ng Washington, inaayos na anya nito ang pagdating ng US delegation.
Зараз конкретні дати, у нас є вже робочі дати, коли команда американська приїде. Зараз узгоджуються дати і склад, і ми чекаємо на команду і будемо разом працювати.
Batay sa readout ng pag-uusap nito kay Waltz, sinabi ni Andriy Yermak ng Ukraine na tinalakay nila ang sitwasyon sa labanan at ang progreso sa pagmomobilisa ng karagdagang Ukrainian manpower. Ani Zelensky, bukas ang Ukraine sa pakikipagkalakalan sa US.
Я йому казав, що окей, ми тільки будемо відкриті. Ми відкриті, щоб заходили інвестиції американських компаній і з задоволенням. Чому? Тому що якщо це буде все під контролем Росії, туди зайдуть інші країни, інші компанії, безпосередньо, я впевнений, і Іран, і Північна Корея. Те, що я про це з ним говорив, це
Bagamat walang detalye binibigay si Trump ukol sa kung paano nito tatapusin ang giyera sa Ukraine, sinabi nitong nais niyang suplayan ng KYIV ang US ng iba't ibang resources bilang kapalit ng suportang pinansyal nito sa pakikipaglaban. Bernard Gonzaga para sa Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Itinanggi ng North Atlantic Treaty Organization o NATO na magkakaroon ng epekto ang naging trade issues na US at ng Europe. Ang pahayag ni Mark Rutte ay kasunod ng naging pahayag ni UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer na hindi ito mamamagitan sa nagaganap na ambahan ng European Union at ng Estados Unidos ukol sa posibilidad ng isang trade war. Subalit, nanawagan naman ito na sana ay mamayagpag ang kapayapaan at magkaliwanagan ang dalawang major world powers sa harap ng mga pagsubok na dala ng kasalukuyang geopolitical climate.
We face a more volatile world now than we have done for many decades. So now is the time to step up on all fronts with both the US and the EU. It is not the time to pull back on either front. Both of these relations are very important to us. We are not choosing between them, but that's historically been the position of the UK for many, many decades now.
Ayon naman kay NATO Chief Mark Rutte, kanilang pinabulaanan na maaaring kumalas ang Europe sa security relationship nito sa US. Hindi anya makabubuti sa European defense strategy kung wala na ang Estados Unidos. Dagdag pa rito na kung dahil dito ay matalo ang Ukraine, malaking sampal ito sa lahat ng tulong na naibigay ng kanilang alyansa.
Yeah, but that means that you have European defense without the US being involved. That's what you're saying. That is a NATO or whatever the organization is then called without the US. For many reasons that will not work. First of all, because we are not, as the Prime Minister was saying, as Keir Starmer was saying, when you look at Ukraine, it is not just Ukraine and Russia, which would be bad enough. It is a geopolitical thing which is going on. The US realizes that, the European side of NATO realizes that, it is China, North Korea, Iran, all getting connected to Russia. So this is a geopolitical thing playing out at the moment with Ukraine. And therefore Ukraine must prevail not only for Ukraine's sake, first of all, but also because of the geopolitical impact.
Tuloy-tuloy ang kanilang ugnayan ni US President Donald Trump at handa sila magpatawag ng pulong. Magugunitang inakusahan ni Trump ang NATO ng hindi gumagastos ng tama para sa kailang depensa kung saan ang US pa umano ang may kakayahan na magbigay ng proteksyon.
Nais ng European Union na magkaroon ng dialogo kasama ang Estados Unidos ukol sa mga pahayag ni US President Donald Trump na balak nitong taasan ng taripa para sa EU.
We will be ready for tough negotiations where needed and to find solutions where possible. To work out any grievances and to set the foundations for a stronger partnership. We will be open and pragmatic in how to achieve that. But we will make it equally clear that we will always protect our own interests, however and whenever that is needed.
Nagpulong noong Lunes ang mga pinuno ng Estados Unidos upang pag-usapan ang iba't ibang hinaing ng kanilang rehiyon kasama na rin ang seguridad ng kanilang alyansa laban sa Russia. At ang pinakamalaking paksa ay ang kanilang magiging tugon kapag umabot na sa EU ang pagpataw ni Trump ng karagdagang taripa sa kanyang mga trade partners. Nanindigan naman si European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen na handa itong labanan ng Estados Unidos sa pagkakataong ang Europa naman ang pagtuunan ng pansin ni Trump. Anya, when targeted unfairly or arbitrarily, the European Union will respond firmly.
When targeted unfairly or arbitrarily, the European Union will respond firmly. This weekend we witnessed how steep tariffs were imposed on Canada and Mexico. Those tariffs raise business costs, they harm workers and consumers, they create unnecessary economic disruption and drive inflation. We do not see much good coming out of this. So we prioritize productive discussions and engage early. At the same time, the European Union remains also steadfast in its multilateral commitments, be it from our development aid to our climate targets.
Idiniin naman ni European Council President Antonio Costa ang kahalagahan ng Greenland para sa kanilang koalisyon. Sinabi niyang tinuturing pa rin ang kanilang samahan na kaibigan ng Estados Unidos, ngunit mas magandang maidaan sa dialogo ang mga hinaing ng bawat isa. Inihayag niya ang importansya para sa lahat ng kasapi ng European Union na ipaglaban ang territorial integrity nito laban sa banta ni Donald Trump.
The United States is our friend, our ally, and our partner. This is a relationship that has deep roots and will endure in time. Problems and difference of views can come up also between friends. When they do, we need to address them, to talk and to find solutions. Of course, while defending our values and upholding our principles and without compromising our own interests. Preserving the territorial integrity of the Kingdom of Denmark, its sovereignty and the inviolability of its borders is essential for all member states. And the European Union fully supports the Kingdom of Denmark.
Nagdeklara ang alyansa ng mga rebeldeng grupo sa Democratic Republic of Congo ng ceasefire o tigil putukan.
Bon, la guerre va aller jusqu'où? Non, nous ne sommes pas des belliqueux. Encore que même la prise de Goma. La prise de Goma est plutôt liée à une chose. La menace qui était à Goma pour nous tuer tout le temps avec des avions Sukhoi. La menace qui était à Goma, avec des avions des forces aériennes, ou je ne sais pas moi quoi, avec des milliers de mercenaires européens qu'on a installés ici, avec tous ces, je dirais, cette bombe à retardement qu'on a, qui est liée au fait qu'il a distribué les armes aux gens qui n'avaient pas qualité.
Sa isang pahayag, tinukoy ng grupong kinabibilangan ng M23 rebels ang humanitarian reasons para sa pagdedeklara ng ceasefire matapos na makubkob ng grupo ang teritoryo sa hilagang bahagi ng bansa. Ayon sa United Nations, nasa 700 katao ang napatay na habang nasa 2,880 ang sugatan sa kamakailang labanan sa may Goma. Kapwa namang kinondena ng Group of Seven or G7 nations at ng European Union ang naturang opensiba bilang isang garapal na paglabag umano sa soberanya ng Congo. Nanawagan naman si Congo Communications Minister Patrick Muyaya sa international community para parusahan ang Rwanda para mapigilan ito dahil hindi anya katanggap-tanggap ang ginagawa ng rebeldeng grupo kung nais talagang mapreserba ang kapayapaan sa Africa at sa rehiyon.
On nous parlait des ressources. Je n'ai pas vu dans l'espace que nous contrôlons une société qui exploite industriellement les minerais d'autre part. On nous parle des roubayas. Je n'ai pas vu dans tout, ce sont des exploitations artisanales, et je n'ai vu aucun Rwandais. Je n'ai vu aucun Rwandais dans tout ça. Je ne sais pas, ils pillent comment. Mais il y a toutes les autres nationalités qui sont. Deuxièmement, quand on parle des ressources, personnellement, je n'ai jamais vu le coltan. Je ne sais même pas c'est quoi. C'est la poussière, c'est la pierre, c'est les matopés. Je n'en connais rien. Entre-temps, tout le monde va chanter ressources, ressources.
Inihayag ni US President Donald Trump nitong Martes ng gabi, oras po yan sa Amerika, ang planong pagsakop sa Gaza Strip pagkatapos mailipat anya ang mga Palestino sa mga karatig bansa.
The US will take over the Gaza Strip and we will do a job with it too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroy buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area, mostly with migrants.
Ang planong ito ay kasunod ng isang joint press conference kasama si Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu na layong magbigay daan sa pagbabago sa mga patakaran ng Estados Unidos tungkol sa issue ng Israel-Palestine conflict. Dagdag pa ni Trump, layunin din daw niyang gawing isang masiglang lugar ang Gaza kung saan lilikha umano ito ng mga libu-libong job opportunities na siyang magsusulong ng pag-unlad sa ekonomiya ng teritoryong magiging isang modelo umano sa Middle East. Inilarawan ng presidente ang Gaza Strip sa isang demolition site. Sinabi niya na kapag nailipat na ang mga Palestino ay mangunguna ang US sa pagsasaayos ng mga gulo mula sa mga natitirang bomba at armas pandigmaan at pamahalaan ang pagpapaunlad o pamahalaan ang pagpapaunlad ng ekonomiya na mag-aahon sa rehiyon.
The only reason the Palestinians want to go back to Gaza is they have no alternative. It's right now a demolition site. This is just a demolition site. Virtually every building is down. They're living under fallen concrete that's very dangerous and very precarious. And I don't want to be cute. I don't want to be a wise guy, but the Riviera of the Middle East, this could be something that could be so bad. This could be so magnificent. I love Israel. I will visit there, and I'll visit Gaza, and I'll visit Saudi Arabia, and I'll visit other places all over the Middle East. The Middle East is an incredible place, so vibrant, so it's just one of the really beautiful places and with great people.
Gayunpaman, hindi dinetalya ni Trump kung paanong isasagawa ang proseso ng resettlement o kung sino ang mga bagong maninirahan sa Gaza. Pinuri naman ito ni Netanyahu at sinabing bagong ideya at ipinagmalaki ang kagustuhan ng presidente ng Estados Unidos na ibahin ang kaisipan ng mga Palestino sa pagharap sa matagal ng issue ng girian sa rehiyon.
I do see a long-term ownership position, and I see it bringing great stability to that part of the Middle East and maybe the entire Middle East. And everybody I've spoken to, this was not a decision made lightly. Everybody I've spoken to loves the idea of the United States owning that piece of land, developing and creating thousands of jobs with something that will be magnificent in a really magnificent area that nobody would know. Nobody can look because all they see is death and destruction and rubble and demolished buildings falling all over. They came from mental.
Kumalas na ang Estados Unidos mula sa United Nations Human Rights Council o UNHRC at sinabi ni US President Donald Trump na ititigil na nito ang pagbibigay ng pondo sa United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees o UNRWA.
So I've always felt that the UN has tremendous potential. It's not living up to that potential right now. It really isn't, hasn't for a long time. It has there are great hopes for it, but it's not being well run, to be honest, and they're not doing the job. A lot of these conflicts that we're working on should be settled, or at least we should have some help in settling them. We never seem to get help. That should be the primary purpose of the UN, the United Nations, and again, it's got great potential, and based on the potential, we'll continue to go along with it, but they got to get their act together.
What would they need to do, sir, to get their act together?
Well, they got to be fair to countries that deserve fairness.
Ang desisyong ito ay kasunod na matagal ng mga kritisismo ng US laban sa kaparehong mga institusyon, partikular sa mga akusasyon na umano'y may kinikilingan ang mga ito laban sa Israel. Ginawa ni Trump ang anunsyo sa isang pulong kasama si Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu na matagal nang nagpahayag na matinding pagtutol sa parehong UNRWA kung saan inakusahan ni Netanyahu ang mga organisasyong ito na umano'y nagpapalaganap ng anti-Israel sentiments at anti-Semitism. Kasama sa mga bagong executive orders ni Trump ang isang pagsusuri sa pakikilahok ng US sa United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization at muling pagsasaalang-alang ng kontribusyon ng US sa UN na binigyan diin ang pangangailangang tugunan ang malalaking pagkakaiba sa financial support sa pagitan ng iba't ibang bansa. Ang Estados Unidos ang may pinakamalaking binibigay na pondo sa UN na mayroong 22% share ng pangkalahatang pondo ng UN na umaabot po sa $300 up to $400 million taon-taon. Noong Enero ng nakaraang taon lamang ay ipinagpaliban din ni dating US President Joe Biden ang pagbibigay ng matapos nga ang mga akusasyon ng Israel sa UN. Kilala ang UNRWA bilang institusyon na nagbibigay ng edukasyon, pangangalaga sa kalusugan at humanitarian aid para sa mga Palestinian refugees mula pa noong taong 1949. Samantala, ang desisyon ni Trump na putulin ang pondo para sa UN ay patuloy na nagpapakita ng kanyang American First na patakaran na inuuna ang interes ng mga Amerikano.
How much money are you willing to take away from them?
Well, we're taking away a little bit, but we're not looking to take away money. This is so important that we're really, as you know, the United Nations is largely funded by us. But, and it shouldn't be. It should be funded by everybody. But we're disproportionate, as we always seem to be. But it's something that if it ever lived up to the potential, in 10 minutes it would make up the difference. That's the kind of power it could have. Right now it doesn't have that power.
Sa ibang balita, pinag-iingat ngayon ng Philippine Embassy sa Japan ang mga Pilipinong turista at naninirahan doon dahil sa tumataas na bilang ng influenza cases. Pinayuhan din ng Philippine Embassy ang mga turistang Pilipino na kumuha ng travel insurance kung bibisita man sa bansang Japan. Hinikayat din ng embahada ang mga Pilipino roon na protektahan ang kanilang mga sarili sa pamamagitan ng pagsusuot ng face mask, lalo na sa mga matataong lugar at pampublikong transportasyon. Mas mabuti rin nila na manatili na lamang sa bahay kung masama ang pakiramdam o kaya'y may sipon. Para sa emergency, ang mga Pilipino sa Japan ay maaaring makipag-ugnayan sa Philippine Embassy sa Tokyo, sa Philippine Consulate General sa Osaka at sa Nagoya. Susunod, 10 katao patay matapos magbarilan sa isang eskwelahan sa Sweden.
European Union nais makipagdialogo sa US sa lalong madaling panahon.
At China magpapadala ng robot sa malayong parte ng buwan. Mga balitang yan at iba pang mga balita sa pagbabalik ng Mata ng Agila International.
Mga trahedya sa tinaguriang Killer Highway, matutuldukan na ba?
Marami nang namatay dito na aksidente pero pinapabayaan lang ng government.
Ilang silang dumaan ng Marilaki dahil yun nga may mga tinatawag na kamote rider.
Mga organizers ng isang award-giving body, inirereklamo.
You have been awarded as ganyan pero yung formal na yung address, hindi sila gumawa.
Panibagong Good Samaritan ating kilalanin. Sabado, alas 6 hanggang alas 7 ng gabi, ito ang Responde, Mata ng Mamamayan.
Let's live together. Sunday 25. Sunday 25.
Bababa sa 370 mga paaralan ang suspendido na ang klase dahil sa record-breaking snowfall na bumagsak sa hilagang rehiyon ng Japan. Ayon sa Japan Meteorological Agency, sa loob ng 24 oras ay umabot na sa 124 centimeters ng snowfall ang bumalot sa rehiyon. Nagdulot din ang snow ng minor disruptions sa daan tulad ng delivery at transportation delays. Inaasahan din ng Weather Bureau ng Japan na may isang low pressure system na magdadala ng karagdagang snow sa mga susunod na araw.
Small mistakes tend to lead to large ones. Ito po ang naging senaryo sa Sichuan, China, kung saan maraming kotseng nakaparada sa isang lote ang napinsala matapos sumabog ang isang manhole. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, isang batang lalaki ang nagtapo ng firecracker sa isang manhole na siyang nagpasimula naman ng methane explosion sa lugar. Wala namang napaulat na nasaktan, subalit umabot sa 285,000 yuan o $39,041 ang naitalang pinsala sa insidente. Iniulat naman ng Chinese media na 8 sasakyan ang nadamay sa pagsabog. Kaagad namang na-track ng mga pulisya ang bata at iniskorta na ito sa ligtas na lugar. Mula rito ay inabisuhan ng China Fire and Rescue ang publiko na maging responsable sa paghawak ng mga paputok, lalo na sa paggamit ng mga ito malapit sa mga sewage systems kung saan ay may mga flammable gas na nako-contain sa loob nito.
Isang wet rescue operation ay sinagawa sa Piparaya, Harduli Village sa India matapos mahulog at matrap ang isang tigre at baboy ramo sa isang balon. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, umaga nang may isang residente ang nakapansin sa dalawang hayop na palutang-lutang sa loob ng balon. Agad namang sinabihan ng residente ang Forest Department tungkol sa insidente upang mailigtas ang mga naturang hayop. Sa pahayag ng Pench Tiger Reserve, ligtas na naiahon ng mga hayop mula sa balon gamit ang isang crane at cot. Pinakawala naman ng mga otoridad ang mga ito pabalik sa gubat matapos ang rescue operation. Pinaniniwala ang nahulog ang dalawang hayop nang hinabol ng tigre ang baboy ramo para kainin.
Daan-daang mga Marilyn Monroe ang nagkaisang magtampisaw sa isang baybayin sa Adelaide, Australia para sa isang charity event. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, nasa 765 na katao na nagsuot ng mga Marilyn Monroe costumes para makaipon ng salapi at makatulong sa Australian Cancer Support. Ang charity swim ay sinimula ni Sara Duterte noong taong 2014 matapos pumanaw ang kanyang ina dahil sa cancer. Magmula po noon ay nakakalikom na ang charity ng 1.3 million Australian dollars taon-taon. Batay naman sa website ng organization, 1 in 2 Australians ang nagda-diagnose ng cancer sa oras na sila ay umabot sa edad na 85. Samantala, ang Australia po ang bansang may pinakamataas na rate ng skin cancer sa buong mundo na may 37 cases per 100,000 na katao. Ito po ay sinundan ng Estados Unidos na 16.5 cases per 100,000 people ayon pa rin po sa 2022 data ng Statistica Data Group.
Inaasahang haharap sa pagsusuri ang Alphabet mula sa investors nito tungkol sa malaking gastusin ng Google sa artificial intelligence. Ito ay kapag nag-ulat na ang kumpanya ng kinita nito. Si Mayfanway Zaragoza para sa detalye.
Nitong mga nakaraang buwan, sinasabing bumagal ang kita ng Google parent company sa holiday quarter dahil sa pagtumal ng negosyo nito sa advertising at cloud. Tulad ng iba pang malalaking kumpanya sa teknolohiya sa bansa, ang Alphabet ay nahaharap sa bagong pagsusuri tungkol sa capital expenditure nito. Ito ay matapos ilunsad ng Chinese startup na DeepSeek noong nakaraang buwan ang murang AI models na may potensyal na magdulot ng price war sa industriya. Ayon sa LSEG, tinatayang umabot sa $50 billion ang capital expenditure ng Alphabet noong nakaraang taon. Sinasabing may plano pa itong maglaan ng karagdagang pondo para sa 2025 upang suportahan ang pagpapalawak ng cloud at AI-driven search futures nito. Pinagtibay ng Microsoft executives at Meta Platforms ang malalaking plano sa paggastos para sa AI noong nakaraang linggo. Sinasabing mahalaga ito upang manatiling nangunguna sa bagong larangan. Mayfel Zaragoza para sa Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Sinabi naman ni Trade Chief Maroš Šefčovič na nais ng European Union na kaagad makipag-ugnayan sa Estados Unidos upang talakayin ang Trump tariffs. Si Marjorie Quintos po para sa balita niyan.
Sa harap ng pulong ng mga ministro ng EU upang talakayin ang kalakalan at kakayahan ng Unyon sa kompetisyon, sinabi ni Trade Chief Maroš Šefčovič na nais niyang magkaroon ng maagang pakikipag-ugnayan at hinihintay ang kumpirmasyon ng pagkatalaga kay Howard Lutnick. Si Lutnick ang pinili ni US President Donald Trump na maging kalihim ng kalakalan ng bansa.
So we are ready to listen, we are ready to engage, to negotiate in our mutual interest. Having said that, the EU would respond firmly to any trading partner that unfairly or arbitrarily imposes tariffs on EU goods.
Ayon sa mga opisyal ng EU, limitado pa ang kontak nila sa administrasyon ni Trump. Binanggit din nila na hindi makikipag-usap ang mga bagong pili ni Trump sa pwesto sa mga dayuhang opisyal hanggat hindi pa nila nakukumpirma ang mga posisyon nito. Samantala, sinabi naman ni European Union Commissioner for Prosperity and Industrial Strategy Stefan Sejourne na ipagtatanggol ng EU ang mga interes nito.
Ne connaît que des perdants, c'est peut-être les conclusions de cette discussion qui me font penser que l'Europe défendra évidemment ses intérêts dans la période, que nous avons préparé également les outils pour défendre les intérêts européens dans cette période.
Ayon kay Trump, susunod na kanyang listahan ang European Union. Madalas na pinaaabot ni Trump ang mga reklamo nito tungkol sa trade deficits ng Estados Unidos sa 27 bansang miyembro ng EU. Marjorie Quintos para sa Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
At iba pa pong mga balita sa pagbabalik pa rin ng Mata ng Agila International.
Sinabi ng OpenAI na magde-develop ito ng artificial intelligence o AI para sa South Korea kasama ang chat app operator na Kakao. Ayon kay Kakao CEO Chung Shina, interesado ang kanilang kumpanya sa AI at messaging. Sinang-ayuna ni OpenAI Chief Executive Sam Altman ang sinabi ni Chung, marami anyang kayang i-explore at i-improve sa chat messaging gamit ang AI. Binanggit din ni Altman na maraming kumpanyang Koreano ang magiging mahalagang kontributor sa proyekto ng Stargate Data Center. Ngunit tumanggi siyang magpaliwanag dahil nais niyang panatiling confidential ang mga partnership ventures niya.
Yeah, it's a great market for us, and I think AI adoption here in general has been quite incredible. There's so much of Korea that makes AI a good fit. If you think about all the industry here, from energy to semiconductors to the internet companies, it's really a sort of unbelievably strong place for the adoption of AI. It's an important market to us. It's growing super fast. Love to do partnerships like this, and excited to. Really excited to focus more on Korea as a market for AI. It's quite impressive what's happening.
Muling nagpaplano ang China na maglunsad ng panibagong moon mission sa taong 2026. Ayon sa state broadcaster ng China, plano ng bansang ito na magpadala ng flying robot patungo sa far side ng buwan. Hindi para kumuha ng moon rock samples, kundi para maghanap ng water sources. Paliwanag ni Wu Wei rin, ang chief designer ng Lunar Exploration Project ng China, may natagpuan sila ng mga kuweba sa South Pole ng buwan. Umaasaan nila na dito magagamit ang inihahanda nilang flying robot at makapagsagawa ng on-site inspection sa naturang kuweba. Ayon sa China National Space Administration, sa taong 2030, inaasahang magiging handa ang China para sa unang crew mission nito patungo sa buwan.
Nakaalis na patungong Harbin, China ang 20 atleta ng bansa na sasabak sa 9th Asian Winter Games. Gaganapin ang opening ceremony sa araw ng Biyernes sa Harbin International Convention Exhibition and Sports Center at magtatapos ito sa Pebrero 14. Tinuturing ito ng Philippine Sports Commission na oportunidad para umani na exposure at karanasan ng ating mga atleta para makilala ang bansa sa Winter Olympics. Ang nasabing bilang na 20 atleta ay siyang pinakamalaking delegasyon ng bansa na maipapadala sa kasaysayan ng nasabing torneo. Pangungunahan nito ni Francis Checharelli at Taluha Prulix para sa slalom ng alpine skiing, Leitas Amihan Arabe sa free ski slopestyle, big air half pipe ng snow skiing event. Sasamahan naman sila ni na short track speed skater Peter Gorseclos, Isabella Gamez at Alexandre Corofin ng figure skaters pair at mga solo figure skaters na sina Sofia Frank, Paolo Borromeo, Catherine Limketkay. Binubuo naman ang men's curling team sina Benjo Delarmente, Alan Frey, Christian Haller, Enrico Feister at Mark Feister. Habang sa women's curling team naman ay binubuo ni Anna Bonash, Kathleen Duberstein, Leilani Duberstein, Sheila Mariano at Jessica Feister. Hindi naman makakasama si Pinoy snowboarder Adrian Lee Tongko matapos na magtamo ng knee injury habang ito ay nagsasanay sa Hakuba, Japan. Sinabi ni Philippine Olympic Committee President Abraham Bambol Tolentino na kayang makipagsabayan ang ating mga atleta at may posibilidad din itong mga ito na makasungkit ng medalya.
Pinaghahandaan na ni Carl Eldru Yulo ang Asian Gymnastics Junior Championships at Junior World Championships para ngayong taon. Ayon po kay Eldru, araw-araw na siyang nagsasanay kahit wala ang kanyang coach na si Monehiro Kogimiya na siyang nagturo rin sa kanyang kapatid na si Carlos Yulo. Matapos ang matagumpay na training sa Japan noong Oktubre, nakatakdang ipagtanggol ni Eldru ang kanyang titulo sa vault apparatus ng Asian Junior Championships sa South Korea mula June 12 up to 16. Susunod naman ang Junior World sa Manila mula July 12 hanggang 21. Bukod sa ito medalya sa vault sa Asian Championship sa Uzbekistan, nagwagi rin siya ng 8 ginto sa Chuwai Chung Cup sa Hong Kong naman noong Disyembre. Dahil dito, ginawaran siya ng special citation sa 2024 PSA Awards Night. Target na magkapatid na Yulo na magkasamang lumaban sa 2028 Los Angeles Olympics. At syempre, tandaan po na narito kami para maghatid ng balita sa anumang dako na mundo. Muli ako po si Rikki Mathay.
Ako si Rikki Alagao Flores. Ito po ang mata ng Agila International. Para naman sa mga balitang nangyari rin sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo, punta po tayo kay Alma Angeles para sa mata ng Agila World News. Take it away, Alma.
Thank you, Nina and Rikki. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alma Angeles for Net 25 World News. On tonight's headlines. President Donald Trump says the U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip after Palestinians are resettled elsewhere and develop it economically.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it. and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site.
And the news starts now. President Donald Trump says the U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip after Palestinians are resettled elsewhere and develop it economically. Now, President Trump unveiled his surprise plan without providing specifics at a joint press conference with visiting Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Mathay likeness for more.
The announcement followed Trump's shock proposal earlier on Tuesday for the permanent resettlement of Palestinians from Gaza to neighboring countries. Trump called the enclave, where the first phase of a fragile ceasefire is in effect, a demolition site.
I also strongly believe that the Gaza Strip, which has been a symbol of death and destruction for so many decades and so bad for the people anywhere near it, and especially those who live there, and frankly, who's been really very unlucky. It's been very unlucky. It's been an unlucky place for a long time. Being in its presence just has not been good, and it should not go through a process of rebuilding and occupation by the same people that have really stood there and fought for it and lived there and died there and lived a miserable existence there.
The people of Gaza have been largely displaced, their homes destroyed, but they still eke out an existence there. So what does Trump propose for the nearly 2 million Palestinians who call Gaza home?
Instead, we should go to other countries of interest with humanitarian hearts, and there are many of them that want to do this, and build various domains that will ultimately be occupied by the 1.8 million Palestinians living in Gaza, ending the death and destruction and, frankly, bad luck.
Trump says the U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip and own it. He says Americans will dismantle all of the unexploded bombs, clean up the rubble, and create jobs and housing for the people of the area.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area.
Sounding like a real estate developer, Trump says everyone he's spoken to loves the idea.
I don't want to be cute, I don't want to be a wise guy, but the Riviera of the Middle East, this could be something that could be so bad, this could be so magnificent.
One person who does not love the idea is Brian Catoulas. He's a policy analyst at the Middle East Institute. Catoulas says Trump is just thinking out loud.
I think he's just making things up off the cuff. Most certainly there's no plan behind this. And if there is, it's not a plan that has any connection to reality in today's Middle East, and certainly not in consultation with the Palestinians or neighboring countries like Egypt and Jordan, which reject the first step in his plan, which is to remove all the Palestinians of Gaza and put them in their countries.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu responded to Trump's proposal, saying that it's an idea worth paying attention to and worthwhile pursuing. A somewhat lukewarm endorsement. This is how Catoulas sees Netanyahu's response.
Netanyahu is not a big visionary leader here. His main focus is trying to stay in power. So he'll continue to tread water, probably not criticize Trump because he doesn't want to get crosswise with Trump, but he probably also won't see any practical import in any of these ideas.
Trump's dreams of the U.S. owning and developing Gaza have been condemned by Palestinian supporters, and Arab countries have shown no interest in taking in Gaza's displaced population. This proposal is destined for the dustbin. Mathay likeness, Net 25 World News.
Now, Saudi Arabia has dismissed President Donald Trump's claim that it would normalize ties with Israel without a Palestinian state. The kingdom's foreign ministry reaffirmed its firm stance, rejecting any attempt to displace Palestinians and calling its position non-negotiable. Trump sparked controversy today by announcing that the U.S. plans to take over Gaza after relocating Palestinians and developing the enclave. He made the remarks alongside Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Saudi Arabia remains unmoved, with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman making it clear that the kingdom's position is final, while Trump hopes to bring Riyadh into the Abraham Accords. Following the UAE and Bahrain, Saudi Arabia insists normalization is off the table without a Palestinian homeland. And do you know Guantanamo Bay? Well, the U.S. might be getting another offshore prison, and this time it's in El Salvador. The Trump administration said it's still assessing whether it could take up El Salvador's offer to house U.S. citizens convicted of crimes in its jails. Take a look.
Estamos finalizando, creo que lo va a anunciar el secretario. Estamos anunciando.
We are finalizing it, and I believe the secretary will announce it. We are announcing a much more important agreement on the same subject, with a much greater scope than those made in 2019. In this case, it is something that the secretary will say if we finish closing it. It is a much greater agreement that is unprecedented in the history of relations not only between the United States and El Salvador, but and Latin America.
El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele just made what Secretary of State Marco Rubio calls an extraordinary offer. They'll take in America's prisoners and deportees. And get this, it doesn't matter what country they're from. They'll even take U.S. citizens.
He has agreed to accept for deportation any illegal alien in the United States who is a criminal from any nationality, be they MS-13 or Tren de Aragua, and house them in his jails. And third, he has offered to house in his jails dangerous American criminals in custody in our country, including those of U.S. citizenship and legal residence.
Now, if you're wondering why El Salvador would do this, here's the backstory. Since taking office in 2019, Bukele has been on a massive crackdown. His country now has the world's highest incarceration rate. And we're talking over 100,000 people behind bars. He's even built this massive mega prison that can hold 40,000 inmates. No family visits, no human rights observers, and just occasional guided tours. Has it worked? Well, crime rates have plummeted and Salvadorans love him for it. But there's a darker side. Human rights groups are raising serious concerns about torture and abuse. So what's in it for El Salvador? Money. Bukele says he'll charge less than U.S. prisons, but for his country, it could mean big profits. Bukele openly admitted he would charge a competitive fee, cheap by U.S. standards, but a financial windfall for his government. If the U.S. outsources even a fraction of its 2 million incarcerated people, Bukele could make a fortune. The U.S. has held Guantanamo Bay in Cuba for over 120 years, paying just $4,000 a year in rent. It was used to detain and torture terror suspects, but with El Salvador, Washington won't even have to do the dirty work themselves. Unlike Guantanamo Bay, which America controls, these prisons would stay under El Salvador's management, and that's what's raising eyebrows in Washington. Now we've covered President Trump's global moves, and now let's look at home. His latest executive order, creating America's first sovereign wealth fund. The Commerce Department has 90 days to draft a plan, but what is a sovereign fund and where will the money come from? Take a look. Think of it as a country's national investment portfolio. While your mutual fund or pension fund belongs to you individually, a sovereign fund belongs to the entire nation. These funds invest in various assets, from stocks and bonds to real estate and even sports teams. Typically, countries create these funds using surplus money. Gulf nations use their oil revenues, while China invests in trade surplus. Currently, there are 90 such funds worldwide, managing a combined $8 trillion. But here's where it gets interesting. America's case is unique. Unlike other countries, the U.S. has been running deficits, not surpluses. So where will the money come from? According to Commerce Secretary Scott Bessent, the plan is to monetize the asset side of the U.S. balance sheet.
We're going to stand this thing up within the next 12 months. We're going to monetize the asset side of the U.S. balance sheet for the American people. We're going to put the assets to work, and I think it's going to be very exciting. We're going to study best practices that's done around the world. It'll be a combination of liquid assets, assets that we have in this country as we work to bring them out for the American people.
President Trump has already suggested one potential use for the fund, acquiring TikTok.
And as an example, TikTok, we're going to be doing something perhaps with TikTok, and perhaps not. If we make the right deal, we'll do it, otherwise we won't. But I have the right to do that, and we might put that in the sovereign wealth fund, whatever we make, or if we do a partnership with very wealthy people, a lot of options, but we could put that as an example in the fund, and we have a lot of other things that we could put in the fund. And
the timeline is ambitious. Trump envisions a $2 trillion fund, which would make it the world's largest, surpassing Norway's $1.74 trillion fund and China's $1.33 trillion fund. Interestingly, this initiative has found bipartisan support. Joe Biden previously explored a similar concept, focusing on critical infrastructure and supply chains. The proposal marks a significant shift in U.S. policy. Until now, America hasn't needed a sovereign fund, largely due to its robust private sector. 16 of the world's 20 largest fund management firms are American. According to Trump's executive order, and I quote, the fund aims to promote fiscal sustainability, reduce tax burdens on families and small businesses, establish long-term economic security, and enhance U.S. economic leadership globally. While the 90-day timeline for creating such a massive fund seems ambitious, this initiative appears to be as much about projecting power as it's about investment strategy. And we're looking at another U.S.-China rivalry, this time in Panama. President Donald Trump has had his eye on Panama for a while, and his biggest concern, the Panama Canal. It's one of the most important waterways in the world, linking the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. The U.S. built it in 1914, but handed control over to Panama in 1999. And now Trump says he wants it back. Why? He believes China is calling the shots. Take a look.
now we had another big thing, speaking of China. China's involved with the Panama Canal. They won't be for long. And that's the way it has to be. Marco just got back, as you know. He's in the process of coming back. I guess he's almost back by now. And he had a very long conversation with the leader of Panama, the respected man, and some others, the entire leadership group. And we're trying to work a deal on the Panama Canal. The Panama Canal was given foolishly years ago to, it shouldn't have been happened, years ago to Panama by Jimmy Carter and the group. We either want it back or we're going to get something very strong, or we're going to take it back. And China will be dealt with. And we didn't give that to China, we gave it to Panama. We shouldn't have given it to Panama, but Panama, as you know, has violated the agreement, totally violated the agreement. So that's in the process right now, but they did have a very good meeting with the head of Panama.
But here's the thing, China does not control the Panama Canal. It's fully operated by Panama. What China does have is a business presence. A Hong Kong-based company runs 2 ports at either end of the canal, and Chinese state-owned firms are involved in construction projects, including a major bridge. And that's what Trump is worried about, China's growing footprint. So Trump sent Secretary of State Marco Rubio to Panama. On Sunday, Rubio met with President Jose Raul Molino and laid out Washington's concerns. While he was there, he also visited the canal and even watched a deportation flight carrying undocumented migrants to Colombia, because Panama is a key U.S. partner in stopping illegal immigration.
We recognize that many of the people who seek mass migration are often victims and victimized along the way. It's not good for anyone. The only people who benefit from mass migration are traffickers. And so this is a program that shows how cooperating with our strong allies here in Panama.
After all this, Trump's tone softened. Why? Because right after Rubio left, Panama made big announcements. First, it's launching an audit of that Hong Kong-based company managing the two ports. If anything shady turns up, Panama could scrap the deal.
The ports do raise doubts, but as I said, so far I have no elements of judgment to opine anything more. Let's wait for the audit of the comptroller, and we will see how affected or not is the national interest in function of that concession.
Second, Panama is letting U.S. warships cross the canal for free, something Trump had been pushing for, complaining about high transit costs. And the biggest move, Panama won't renew its membership in China's Belt and Road Initiative, or BRI.
The Memorandum of Understanding of 2017 about the Silk Road, the Belt and Road Initiative, will not be renewed by my government.
Now that's President Xi Jinping's massive global infrastructure program, often criticized as a debt trap for smaller nations. Panama was the first Latin American country to join back in 2017, and under the deal, China had proposed several major projects: a high-speed rail line to Costa Rica, a subway line in Panama City, a new container port, a bridge across the canal, the only project that actually moved forward. But most of those projects have been stalled for years. And now, with Panama stepping away from BRI, even the bridge could be in doubt. Rubio called this a huge win for U.S.-Panama relations.
We don't want to have a hostile or negative relationship with Panama. I don't believe we do. But we had a frank and respectful conversation, and I hope it'll yield fruits and results in the days to come. We do a lot of other things with Panama that go beyond just the canal. I mean, they've been a great partner on the slowing down the rate of migration on the Darien and coming across the Darien Gap and the like. So I think it was a good visit.
Trump will likely agree, though we don't know if this will stop him from eyeing control of the canal. For now, the developments mark a clear diplomatic win for Washington and a setback for Beijing's ambitions in Latin America. U.S. President Donald Trump says he wants to close the U.S. Department of Education using an executive order. But he acknowledges he will need buy-ins from Congress and teachers' unions to fulfill his campaign pledge to do so. Angel Membrere reports.
The Education Department has been high on Trump's list of targets. A White House official says an executive order, expected to be issued later this month, will direct the Secretary of Education to work to close the department. The official says a 90-day review will take place to outline a plan, and input from Congress will be sought. Trump says schools are not being run properly and education should be turned over to individual states.
If I could give the schools back to Iowa and Idaho and Indiana and all these places that run properly, there's many of them. I think, so if you look at the list, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, believe it or not, China's doing very well on that list, a list of well-educated, where they run their school system well. You have a lot of countries, not surprising names. I think that if you moved our schools into some of these states that are really well-run states, they would be as good as Denmark and Norway and Sweden and some of the other states.
The president has proposed Linda McMahon to lead the department, although she has not yet been confirmed by the Senate for the role. So why is Trump bothering to appoint a Secretary of Education if the department is going to be shut down?
I told Linda, I hope you do a great job and put yourself out of a job. I want her to put herself out of a job. Education department. So we're ranked number 40 out of 40 schools, right? We're ranked number 1 in cost per pupil. So we spend more per pupil than any other country in the world, and we're ranked at the bottom of the list. We're ranked very badly. And what I want to do is let the states run schools. I believe strongly in school choice, but in addition to that, I want the states to run schools, and I want Linda to put herself out of a job.
Trump's main roadblock will be the Senate, where Republicans hold 53 to 47 majority. But major legislation, like a bill to eliminate a cabinet-level agency, would need 60 votes and thus the support of 7 Democrats to pass. Senate Democrats have given no sign they would support abolishing the Education Department. Randy Weingarten, president of the American Foundation of Teachers, said her union would welcome a chat with Trump. She says this move will undermine and hurt, not help, the lives of millions of working and middle-class kids whose public education is improved by federal dollars. Angel Membrari for Net 25 World News.
Thai hospitals are struggling to care for Myanmar refugees after U.S. aid cuts left camp medical facilities shuttered. At Ta Song-yang Hospital in northwestern Thailand, doctors rushed to treat 86-year-old Adabi, a refugee with heart failure and pneumonia, as her daughter watched tearfully. She's one of many patients now seeking emergency care at Thai facilities after healthcare services in refugee camps collapsed. The crisis deepened when President Trump announced plans to wind down the U.S. Agency for International Development, which funds humanitarian aid globally. Along the Thai-Myanmar border, tens of thousands of refugees in mountainside camps previously relied on USAID-funded medical care through the International Rescue Committee. While Thailand's Deputy Prime Minister Anutin Charnvirakul pledged last week that the Thai health system would support affected refugees, local officials warn government hospitals may not be able to handle the long-term burden. The hospital director says they're considering stationing an ambulance at the camp for emergency transfers.
There are cases that are too much for them, Mela refugee camp, to handle, like complex cases that the medics can't take care of or don't have sufficient equipment for. Then these cases will be transferred to our hospital. Yesterday, we spoke about assigning one ambulance to be stationed inside the camp so they can use it to transfer patients here.
But broader concerns remain about sustainable health care for this vulnerable population. And the news continues here on Net 25. We'll be right back. The U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth visited the U.S.-Mexico border in El Paso, Texas, meeting with Marines and Federal Border Patrol agents. His visit comes just weeks after President Trump declared a national emergency at the southern border, ordering troop deployments to reinforce security. During his visit, Hegseth emphasized the military's long-standing role in border security, but noted that the current administration is taking it to a new level.
The Defense Department has been helping on the border for decades, just not at the level that President Trump has charged us with right now. Because we believe, and he believes, that border security is national security. Guys and gals of my generation have spent decades in foreign countries guarding other people's borders. It's about time we secure our own border. We will defend this line. And in talking to the men and women in uniform, they're proud to be here. They're excited to be here. They're motivated to be here because they're defending their friends, their family, their communities, their church, their schools, their loved ones from an invasion of people whose intentions we don't know.
Hegseth was joined by White House Board Czar Don Homan, who highlighted the unprecedented level of coordination between the military and law enforcement agencies.
I've never seen the amount of engagement from the military on the border, helping to secure the border. I've never seen the engagement from other law enforcement agencies, whether it's FBI, U.S. Marshals, DEA, DOJ's at the table across the country doing operations. This is a game changer. We will finally succeed and have an operational control of our southern border.
The visit comes as reports surface of Mexican drug cartels ramping up attacks against U.S. agents. According to an internal cartel memo published by multiple news outlets, criminal organizations have authorized the use of suicide drones targeting Border Patrol agents and military personnel. Social media posts from cartel-affiliated accounts have even called on illegal migrants to kill ICE agents to gain entry into the U.S. Just last week, Border Patrol officers in Texas came under gunfire from cartel members. Texas officials now say the presence of U.S. Marines has forced the cartels to retreat from certain areas. As cartel violence escalates, Secretary Hegseth says thousands more troops will be deployed to reinforce border security, with the Trump administration framing the situation as an invasion of the United States. Meanwhile, police in Ohio are on the hunt for a shooter after a deadly incident at a New Albany warehouse yesterday afternoon. One person was killed and 5 others were wounded in what police are calling a targeted attack.
At this point, we have 1 confirmed fatality. We have 5 that were transported to the hospital. Their conditions, I'm not able to comment on their conditions at this point. We have a person of interest, and we are working to locate them and bring them into custody. And again, this is quite a tragedy, and it's really a fluid situation and the investigation's really just begun. You know, they went to different hospitals. We have officers at those hospitals. At this point, our focus is on making sure that we have this building secure, that we're able to obtain the proper search warrants to search the location and get that investigative process started. But again, we have officers with all the victims, so we'll have that information hopefully soon. We believe we may know their location. We don't have any reason to believe that they are a general threat to society, more that it appears at this point to be a targeted type of attack.
Japan is in the grip of its most intense cold snap this season, with heavy snow blanketing much of the country's Sea of Japan coast. The Hokuriku region, Niigata Prefecture, and parts of southern Tohoku are in for rapid snow accumulation, thanks to a weather phenomenon known as the Japan Sea Polar Air Mass Convergence Zone, or JPCZ. By late Wednesday morning, Minamiyazu Town in Fukushima Prefecture had already seen 20 centimeters of snow, while Toyama City's Inotani District recorded 19 centimeters. Toyama City itself reached a snow depth of 51 centimeters, the deepest this season and the first time in 2 years that snow there has exceeded 50 centimeters. And the snow isn't letting up anytime soon. By midday Thursday, forecasters say the Tohoku region and Niigata could see up to 1 meter of snow. The Hokuriku region could get 80 centimeters, Gifu up to 70, and other parts of Japan, including Hokkaido, Kinki, and Chugoku, are also in for significant snowfall. Even Kyushu could see some accumulation. Blizzard-like conditions are expected along the Sea of Japan coast, with strong winds and high waves adding to the hazards. The Meteorological Agency is warning of potential traffic disruptions, power outages, avalanches, and fallen trees, urging residents to stay alert. And with that, we end tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on Net 25, I'm Alma Angeles. Thank you for joining us. Good night.